Okay, we are live.
All right, I'll call our work session to order. First item on the agenda is going to be the approval of the minutes from our December 15th meeting. Do we have any comments or amendments to the minutes?
Okay, we are live.
All right, I'll call our work session. Take that as a no. Under old business, the zoning text amendment on the natural resource protection standards. I saw you did have there was an amendment to that went out. Was that yesterday, Ryan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully everyone received the proposed changes from Commissioner Bolzina. Staff reviewed them. Alderman Whitmire as well. And we're in agreement that they're reasonable changes and make sense. The changes that have come forward are basically simplify the original amendments back from December. We're sticking to defined terms, no extraneous language. And, I should have done this the first time, which is rely on our existing regulations, which we have a resolution passed in 2020 when we updated the permit fees that basically allow the city to charge developers and applicants for third-party legal and engineering and environmental review. So it's already on the books. So I added a section in that Dennis has kindly kind of fortified the language there that basically is more or less word for word with what was adopted for that resolution. So I think these changes are what Alderman Whitmire had in mind when he brought this forward, which is, it emphasizes that the city has that ability to hire a third party if there's a question about the document that's put forward, document being the truth doesn't. So staff's open to any questions.
Yeah, I just didn't know how you established the fee, but this language put it together. If sometimes we don't know whether we need the consultant going in, we don't know if we need the traffic consultant or now the natural resource consultant. So I didn't know how that was structured and whether there was enough fee to grab money for that, or whether you had a procedure to enhance the fee at some point, if you thought you were going to incur those kind of expenses. So,
and we've used it this year too. Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, we had some engineering review or a floodplain permit, I want to say, that we invoiced the applicants. I don't know what the amount was, but it was, we needed
$3,600.
Right. So we passed that on to the applicant because we needed that expertise to ensure that the permit was correct. So we've been taking advantage of this.
that's great. I think it works.
So then to get to the so Dennis, you'll be making some amendments then to this item when the time comes?
Yeah, can I just say as per the supplemental document that was circulated, or how do I have to go through each one of the language changes?
If you're fine with that, Ed, I am.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. If they're all covered in that document, that's easier and cleaner.
Right. Okay. All right.
Do that. And then I guess question, I always hate to have applicants sitting and waiting while we discuss zoning text amendments. So do we want to move one to the end of the meeting after the new business? Maybe
that makes perfect sense to me.
Maybe before the discussion on gates. But
you need a motion on that when we go in?
We would.
Yeah, we would just need a motion to, how would we say that? We just move to
Suspend the agenda to move item 1 after item 5.
Yeah.
Can you handle that for us, Will?
I'm happy to make that.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we would do
Okay.
that, and we would do just a order, we would do that as soon as you went to old business zoning text 1, that would just be a motion to move it to after 5, right?
Yeah, why not, like, I guess after the approval of the minutes, I guess, why don't we do it then? You can make your motion.
Okay.
All right, anything else on 1? All right, item 2 tonight is the final site development plan at Town and Country Crossing. So we'll have Mr. Stock back with us.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I
This
expect a
is,
great presentation as usual.
he is armed and ready for sharing a presentation. So yes, he will be here along with, I believe, representatives from RPT Realty, own and manage Town and Country Crossing. So this is the former Vinci space. So Chase Bank wants to take that space and they're want to add 1,300 plus or minus square feet to that space, basically building out into the alley. This will need to go through architecture review next month, and then eventually architecture review at the Board of Aldermen. So, I'm sorry. And they'll be reinstalling new pavers, and I've asked them to, since some trees will come down in the alley, to shift that landscaping around to break up the dumpster areas that are near there. Right now, there's no landscaping there. So they're showing new landscaping along the dumpster enclosure walls that face the parking lot. But, same materials, same general look as what currently exists now.
Mr. McKnight, question, staff?
I guess just a question I can bring up during the meeting as well, but so we're taking a retail space that's selling things and we're making it a bank. Does the bank have a product that we actually collect any city revenue on? Or is it just going to be a dead tax space for us at that point?
We'll get the building permit fees. There'll be a business license fee for occupied office space. So there will be revenue that they generate on an annual basis. I mean, it won't be significant.
Yeah.
Though, to be fair, I don't believe Minchie's was significant.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out, it's just really probably more of a conversation than I would think the alderman would want to have, but at the same time, we could probably fill that with the way banks get built. We could probably fill that space with banks these days and have a bank in every spot there. So is that
Right.
Is that what we want to do with that space, and I think that's more of a usage question that probably should go to the alderman, but it's just one of those questions I will raise as a question mark as far as what fees we'll be collecting in that space.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ryan, I didn't hear you. Who was in the space formerly?
Minchie's frozen yogurt.
I'm sorry,
Frozen
two people
yogurt.
were talking.
Next door to First Watch, right?
Frozen yogurt.
Oh.
I miss Menchie's.
Mr. Malin Smith?
Me too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to echo or add on to what Commissioner McKnight was raising, because that same thought crossed my mind, that this change will substantially or at least effectively reduce the revenue that the city receives from that space. But there's a related question, and that is, this bank will now be the 6th bank at that intersection. So if one stood at that intersection, you could hit 6 banks with a single golf shot. And from providing the residents with convenience and amenities, this does not add to the overall provision of services to the city, and that's disappointing. But I think the two matters are outside the purview of this commission and really something that the alderman should be sensitive to.
Ms. Mueller?
I was just going to add, it's not only the 6th, Fred, but I mean, it's the 2nd, this shopping center, because while it's not a full facility, there's the Bank of America ATM, one over by Mr. Goodsense. And that's
There's Amanda, you're correct. There's a PNC bank,
oh
right.
yeah. So
full-size
3.
bank. So I was talking classical conventional banks.
Mhm.
This would make number 6 at that intersection.
Mr. Spencer?
I would add that right now, the language for the center caps medical office space. So I guess the conversation that seems to be happening right now is maybe that's something to bring up the Board of Alderman level about capping financial institution occupied space within the center. Because I do monitor medical office space because we have been adding more of that in the past, but we're not quite to that cap yet. But there is no limitation on financial institutions. So just a thought.
There must be something about the economics of banking that I don't understand, because I can't figure out in this day and age of online banking why these banks they can't build facilities fast enough, and everybody banks online. I don't get it.
Well, I think they're adding financial advisor services, aren't they?
Yeah, maybe.
A lot of these banks, so face-to-face is.
Anything else on item 2 for questions of staff? Mr. Bolzino?
Oh, I guess it's not questions of staff, but just a prelude to some of the comments I probably will be making, and that is, I don't think it's in keeping with the original intent of the master plan for this development, especially impinging on this walkway space. That was an important aspect of the original design to encourage folks to get beyond these buildings and approach the promenade and use the public amenity space that was deliberately designed into this plan. So I'm going to be very much opposed to encroaching on that space.
Okay. Next items tonight are item 3 and 4, the conditional use permit for the pool and the pool house on Claymark Drive. Questions of staff on either of those?
Ryan,
Yes, sir.
notice the pool. Do we get a subsequent submittal on the details of the pool? Seems to be very, very skimpy details on the pool. I got a plan and a waste and a stormwater disposal. And that's it.
Right. I just included the site plan. I didn't include the building permit. Laura, I think we had the building permit set for the pool, which is, it's a very standard pool. It's not, doesn't have any unusual features about it. The reason they have to go to you all is that it's more than 30 feet from the house. It's 50 feet. That's the only reason it's before you as a conditional use permit.
Alderman Whitmire?
So to that point, does anybody know why that ordinance exists today, that it should be no more than 30 feet from the house? What would be the general intent?
I believe the intent would be to keep and I'll defer to Dennis if I'm incorrect, that you're keeping all the ancillary secondary uses in a more centralized area and not spreading them out closer to the property lines, impacting neighbors. I think that would be the intent, but I may be wrong, guys.
Mr. Bolzino?
Yeah, historically, the zoning reason for it is that people in the old days that I still remember used to put a little shed or some kind of building toward the back of their property, and it was for doing whatever, storing things. And historically, when something was that remote from the main house, it tended to be ignored after the original use got used up, and it became a dilapidated eyesore. So to counter that, most zoning ordinances said, well, if you're going to have an outbuilding or a detached structure, if you're going to have a detached structure, we want it closer to your main house so that you're looking at it every day, and maybe you won't let it go into disrepair. So that's kind of the historical zoning reason why we don't want outbuildings too far away from the house.
Thank you.
Anything else on 3 or 4? Questions of staff? Go ahead, Mr. Brown Smith.
Is the issue on number 4 the size?
Yes,
And that's, is that the loan issue on number 4?
correct. It
Thank you.
it
Okay.
is. It's in a legal location for a pool house. It's of the legal height. It's just slightly larger than what's allowed. It's 480 square feet. So
Ryan, when's the last time we had a pool house that did comply?
Laura, you see more pool house permits than I do, but it's fairly rare.
They're rare. I'll
Yep.
say that. I'd have to do some.
That's all right. I'm not that curious.
The one in Thornhill comes to mind. That's probably the last one I remember.
I would comment that the footprint of this one is over the top, but the enclosed space is under. So the
Right.
mass is not as great.
Yeah.
You previously saw this property for the same request. It was a different pool house. It was more of a storage building. And there was controversy about a garage door, the neighbors, and it eventually was defeated at Board of Aldermen. So this is different. He's got storage. He's got the covered pavilion for chairs and tables. He's got quite a package of letters of support. So a lot more groundwork has been done.
No water.
And last time it was a pool house without a pool, which there was a lot of consternation about that. So obviously you see the pool this time.
Yeah.
A little different.
No water service.
Oh, Aaron.
Last item, item number 5 tonight is the attached garage at 1089 Mason Ridge Road. Any questions of staff on item 5?
I'm sorry, it's a detached garage.
When I say attached,
Yeah, yes.
the detached garage.
So detached garages are not enumerated, therefore any type of detached garage requires a conditional use permit. They did get architectural review approval on January 3rd. And it's 19 feet in height, 792 square feet. This is the property at the corner of Mason Ridge and Clayton across from Longview Park, and is fairly well wooded, especially even now in winter. But the garage faces the house. It's not a front facing garage or anything like that. So, and the materials will be in keeping with the existing structure. They're doing this as part of a remodel renovation with the existing house. So,
Great. Mr. Bolzina?
Yeah, did the architectural review make any comments whatsoever, or just as is, or as it's presented to us, includes any architectural review comments?
Laura, you can jump in if I missed something, but I think that one question they had was whether or not it could be attached. And the architect talked about how it could be, but it would be difficult, and the look of it wouldn't necessarily be preferred. Mr. His name is Max. He should be on the call tonight. You can maybe ask him about that, because I always try to tell people, if you can't find a way to attach it, you can avoid this kind of process. But in this case, because of the way the house is laid out in the driveway, it didn't make sense from their point of view. So that's why they come forward with the plan that they have.
Mr. McKnight?
I was just saying, it seems like we've asked people to connect these types of things before, so it's not been, I know when we've designed them, it's just it kind of opens a can of worms if we're going to allow a detached garage. I guess, are we going to end up doing this on every house that gets built at this point? So that's the concern I have with it. Are we setting some type of, you did it for them, so you should do it for anybody else who builds a new house and wants to put a garage over there, wherever they want, not attach it. So,
Alderman Whitmire?
And kind of along the same lines, I'm wondering, so this is not enumerated in our code. despite the fact that I would think that these are a fairly popular thing, so they've been purposely not included in the code, I would suspect. And that aligns with what? Why is that?
I would defer to our city historian, Dennis Bolzina. I'm not sure why why that was set up that way. But we have approved them in the past. They are rare. I can think of maybe 2 others in my time here. I do go out of my way to encourage people to attach because it again saves time and money going through a process. But we have approved them. I mean, it wouldn't be setting a precedent. It's not something that comes forward on any regular basis. Staff as proposals.
Mr. Bolzina?
Yeah, I mean, architecturally, other folks have been able to handle this kind of design intent by essentially creating a porte cochere or some kind of connecting arch or something that would connect the 2 structures together over the driveway. So we do have them, but most architects, when they're doing a new home at least, will have a structure that visibly connects the 2 pieces, and all the pieces are architecturally consistent, which we do not have here. I don't believe we have any architectural consistency between the home, which is a very old and classically designed home, and the garage, which is just a frame building with siding on it. So I'm not excited about that.
I know they have a concept for connection, but I think that came up as well, Laura, am I correct?
They did. So it's my understanding they don't actually have a garage attached to the house. Currently, the porte cochere area is the detached garage, and they're trying to get away from that. And I'll let the applicant say more to that, but at ARB, he presented it that with where it would connect, it's rather low hanging, and they're trying, they wouldn't be able to get all sides of vehicles in there. So I'll let them speak more to that, but that was also what he said at ARB.
Ms. Mansell?
Are there any, what about the office above the space? Is there any, I guess I'm interested in anyone else's thoughts on that. Is that something that's generally done on detached, or, you know what I mean? Like, cause it changes it from a garage to now it's the potential living space, I guess.
Yeah, almost every garage, whether it's attached by porte cochere or detached, has some sort of activity area on the second floor. But the key is we don't allow habitation of a bathroom and a kitchen, and it's a
Gotcha.
mother-in-law suite that can be
Okay.
occupied or rented. That we don't allow. So
Okay. Yep.
an office is open.
All right.
Mr. Malin Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question or area of concern, I think, parallels Commissioner Bolazina. And I was going to ask the same question. What was the feedback from the ARB review? Because the color illustrations that we received in the packet would suggest to me that the architecture of the proposed garage is markedly different than the appearance of the building. And I'm wondering about the compatibility of the materials as well as the design.
To my recollection, they had no other comments besides whether or not the connectability.
Mr. Bolzina?
Did they bring a sample of the synthetic tile for the roof that's supposed to match the existing roof? Did they bring a sample of that to the architectural review?
I don't have my notes in front of me, but I don't think that they did.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important.
Okay, we did just a couple of minutes, so I'm going to move us on to item 6, the residential gate zoning amendments. Mr. Spencer?
This commission asked that we add an item after the new year to set up a subcommittee to look at potential amendments to residential gates.
Okay.
So that's the item. So I'll leave it to the commission to decide how to populate that subcommittee.
Great. And then will we have a report from the Board of Aldermen tonight?
Yes,
All right. We'll look forward to it.
it will be so brief.
That's our favorite kind. Okay, well, we've got about 3 minutes, so I'll adjourn and we'll meet you back here. Oh, wait, Mr. Bolzina.
Yeah, I had a question for Ryan. Sent you that information on the prior exhibit that applied to Town and Country Crossing. Do we know whether notice has been provided to the neighbors as stipulated in that Exhibit A?
I believe the applicant's representative has stated that they're in the process of reaching out based on the information I provided to them yesterday that you provided to me. So that would, please direct your question to him and I'm sure they can give you more detail.
Okay.
Answer.
For the commission's enlightenment, Exhibit A, unfortunately or fortunately, I was around during the time that this got passed. So Exhibit A had to do with certain stipulations that were agreed to with the neighbors, 3 of the neighbors. And one of the stipulations that if there's any change in the square footage or plan, the original plan, that they need to be put on notice so that they can speak to it. So that's a requirement in the original ordinance for this development.
Well, just to be clear, it's a requirement of their settlement agreement of the lawsuit. It's not a requirement of the ordinance.
Right, correct.
And quick question, was that a notice to be before the planning and zoning or before the alderman meeting on it?
It
Or was it
says
defined?
it says that the party that is the owner of Town and Country Crossing is to inform the other litigants, the condo associations, 30 days prior to any application submittal. There was a big lawsuit and there was a settlement agreement. Some of the stipulations of the settlement agreement were encapsulated as conditions in the ordinance. Some were not. This was not. Obviously 15 years have passed. So, you know, whether that's been going on this time, I who's to say, but it's definitely a matter between 2 private parties. But you know, it's good to remind them of that agreement.
Okay, our meeting starts in 1 minute, so I will
Okay.
adjourn and